The first story we should talk about is Boris, a subject of endless fascination, and he's managed to dominate the papers again this weekend as well by saying that Cameron should get serious about Europe. What do you think of it?
Well, he's giving a speech on Wednesday in which he'll say that Cameron needs to be ready to leave the EU and give the impression in his renegotiation that he could leave. So over the past few years, whenever Cameron has talked about Europe, he said that he wants to stay in Europe, and whenever he's asked what he'd do if his renegotiation would fail, he said, well, my renegotiation won't fail, so I don't need to think about that, which is quite a confident way of talking, particularly when you have Angela Merkel occasionally stitching you up over things like Jean-Claude Juncker, so he can't actually be as certain as he wants to be. So this is Boris just kind of putting a marker down, saying, I'm a little bit more robust than you, Cameron, I'm still snapping at your heels, you think I'm going to help you, but actually I'm my own man and I'm going to make life difficult for you if I want to as well.
How irritated do you think Cameron would be by it?
Well, I think, to be fair to Cameron, he has shifted his language on this recently anyway. So when he came back from his failure to block Jean-Claude Juncker, even though he was feted in Parliament as having stood up for the right cause, he also shifted his language very slightly, and he started to talk in a conditional sense about staying in the EU. So he said, if we get the changes that we want, I will be voting to stay in. That's the first time I'd ever heard him say if when he was talking about his position in the referendum, and I thought that was quite significant. That was something that certainly cheered the better off out Eurosceptics who want him to have that slightly more robust position, even if it's just the little word if.
And in other political news as well this week, what do you think's looming on the horizon? Miliband?
Well, I think the battle over foreign policy and the way the government is responding to the increasingly febrile international situation isn't going to go away. And all the other announcements from Labour about welfare and all the sort of discussion about Europe actually pales into insignificance compared to what's going on in Israel. And Miliband's intervention over the weekend, he's previously condemned what Israel was doing, but he's now saying, why isn't the government condemning what Israel is doing? Well, why isn't David Cameron being stronger in his language? And that was what Downing Street really resented, was it wasn't just Miliband standing up for what he thought was happening, but actually it was Miliband saying that you guys aren't taking a strong enough line, and they accused him of playing politics, and Chris Grayling actually accused him of endangering the international situation with his words, which is perhaps quite complimentary to the Labour leader, because he is only the leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought the Grayling comments were a bit of an overreaction, really. I mean, I cannot believe that either Hamas or the Israeli government is noticing what Ed Miliband has done or said. Indeed, one of the weirdest interjections so far into the whole Gaza debate was Ed Miliband saying at an early stage, when there were air operations but ground troops hadn't gone in, that he thought it would be unwise to send ground troops in. I mean, no one knows when Ed Miliband last won a war or directed an army or studied military strategy even. It's very odd for someone in that position, from any political party abroad, to be giving advice like that. But in any case, Ed Miliband's desire to intervene in this is, I think, understandable. I don't agree with it, but it's understandable, because he obviously, and members of his party, his parliamentary party, are, I think, coming under quite a lot of pressure from constituents on this. A lot of Labour MPs say, the number one thing in their postbag, even when there's not a flare-up like there is at the moment between Israel and Gaza, they say that their postbags are filled with letters about this issue. And the Labour Party, really, this is something at the grassroots they feel.